August 2025, Port Canaveral, Florida. The world changed. While everyone looked at Icon of the Seas as the largest ship ever built, Royal Caribbean was hiding a secret, a twin ship, more ambitious, more luxurious, more impossible, Star of the Seas. This isn't another megaship, it's the answer to a question no one dared to ask. What happens when you take perfection and double it? 365 meters defying logic, 20 decks of pure ambition, 7,600 adventurers floating on an ocean that no longer knows limits. But here's what no one told you. Star of the Seas wasn't built to imitate, it was built to conquer. New restaurants that redefine the high seas, shows that turn time into a toy, and a leap into the void that tests your courage 47 meters above the water. This isn't just the newest, biggest, and most luxurious ship in the world. It's a declaration of war against everything you thought was impossible. Two $2 billion titans facing each other on the same ocean. 8 worlds fighting for your attention. 6 slides that measure vertigo in floors. An infinity pool hanging over the Atlantic. The question is no longer, which one is the biggest? It's which one will you get lost in? Stay until the end, because what's coming is unprecedented. Welcome to Curiometro. The story didn't begin in Florida. It began 8,000 kilometers away, in the frozen shipyards of Meyer Turku, Finland. While the world celebrated the debut of Icon of the Seas in Miami in January 2024, a second identical hull was silently rising under the Nordic sky. Same brutal dimensions, 365 meters in length. Same titanic weight, 248,663 gross tons. Same impossible capacity, 7,600 souls on board. The key difference? They weren't replicating an idea, they were investing another $2 billion to push it even further. For 900 days of non-stop work, more than 2,500 specialists welded, wired, and tested systems at -20 degrees Celsius. Cranes and steel blocks locking together like giant pieces of a puzzle. Every steel plate cut with laser precision, every deck calibrated to the millimeter, every system duplicated and improved. Entire modules, hallways, cabins, restaurants, assembled like pieces that fit on the first try. On August 9th, 2025, when that Titan touched the waters of Port Canaveral for the first time, it wasn't just another cruise ship coming home. It was a declaration of war. 7 days later, on August 16th, the first guest would set foot on its decks. But Star of the Seas wasn't built to settle for second place. It came to prove that even when you build perfection, you can always build it better. But building two $2 billion Titans meant an impossible gamble. How do you improve on perfection? You cross the gangway onto Star of the Seas, and your brain takes a second to process the scale. This isn't just a ship, it's a city choreographed into 8 neighborhoods that breathe at once. 8 promises will open together on this very journey, each with its own personality, each with its own heartbeat, each designed to steal your breath in a completely different way. You start at the AquaDome, a dome rising nearly 25 meters high, where a central waterfall frames shows with acrobats flying among the clouds. Here, gravity is optional. Turn towards Central Park, more than 33,500 real plants breathing under an open sky. Violins floating among orchids while your cocktail is served by waiters that look like they've stepped out of a fairy tale. Further aft, Surfside pulses with family energy. Vintage carousels alongside splash zones where kids rule their own water kingdom. And if you're staying in the ultimate family townhouse, you've got 3 levels, an indoor slide, and direct access to Surfside, a true home at sea. 1 level up, Chill Island spreads out like an oasis. Royal Bay, the largest pool ever built at sea. Cove Pool and Cloud 17 for disconnecting. And Swim and Tonic, the swim-up bar that serves you without leaving the water. A bit higher, the Hideaway beats like a sunset club. The first suspended infinity pool at sea, hanging 8 decks above the waves. Under the lights, the Royal Promenade buzzes with commissioned art, restaurants, and Casino Royale with more than 370 slot machines that never sleep. Suite Neighborhood gathers the most exclusive suites, with a lounge and private terrace pool, a sanctuary high above the ship. And above it all, Thrill Island roars like a beast hungry for adrenaline. The Category 6 water park with record-breaking slides. And Crown's Edge, the walkway that makes you step out over the ocean with a mechanical roar daring you to be brave. Look at it as a whole. 8 worlds, 1 voyage. There's always another wow just 20 steps away. If you wander without a plan, it pulls you in. If you overplan, you miss the thrill of chance. And just when you think you've seen it all, 6 slides appear that rewrite the laws of physics. A metallic roar shakes the hull, screams vanish into the wind, the sound of 6 mechanical beasts devouring human fear. You've arrived at Category 6, the largest water park at sea. 6 slides, 6 ways to negotiate with fear, 6 ways to turn nerves into laughter. The warm-up begins with pressure drop, the first open freefall slide on the ocean. You step onto a trapdoor. They count down. 3, 2, 1. The floor disappears. A 66-degree drop. 2 seconds that scramble your stomach as your scream gets trapped in a tube that spits you into the turquoise abyss. To your left, 2 colorful serpents twist toward the sky. Storm chasers. A head-to-head mat race where gravity decides the winner, and the loser demands a rematch. Climb 1 level higher, and now the raft spins suspended over the edge. Storm Surge and Hurricane Hunter. Raft slides for 4 adventurers with banked curves and elevated sections that let the ocean peek beneath your feet, like aquatic roller coasters where every scream finds an echo in the waves. But all of that is just the appetizer, because at the very top of Thrill Island, the king waits on his steel throne. Frightening Bolt, the tallest drop slide at sea with 46 feet, around 14 meters, of pure adrenaline and a trapdoor launch. The gate opens, a heartbeat, a void swallows you in seconds as the Caribbean blurs into turquoise streaks. When your heart finally remembers its rhythm and your legs how to walk, another electric roar rises from the highest deck. It's Crown's Edge. But that story comes later. For now, remember this. In Category 6, slides aren't measured in meters. They're measured in floors of pure terror. After the rush of pure adrenaline, your body needs exactly this. Category 6 leaves you breathless. But Star of the Seas knows the perfect antidote to adrenaline. Chill Island doesn't just welcome you, it seduces you. 3 levels of liquid calm where every drop of water feels choreographed for absolute relaxation. Royal Bay dominates the central panorama. 40,000 gallons waiting across 5,813 square feet of perfect tranquility. Here, loungers don't just border the water, they live inside it. 100 submerged seats where the idea of getting out of the pool simply doesn't exist. Dash Swim and Tonic pushes the concept of the swim-up bar, not just in scale, but in ambition. Mixologists working with their hands below water level, cocktails floating into your reach while a DJ washes the sunset in beats. Prefer something more intimate? Cove Pool embraces you with glass walls that erase the boundary between pool and ocean. Cloud 17, less volume, more pause. Reserved only for adults who understand that true luxury is measured in silence. And then, there's The Hideaway, 65 feet above the waves. An infinity pool that seems to hang in mid-air with the stern as a balcony and the Caribbean as a stage. Here you don't swim, you float above the world. When the sun sets, Chill Island changes its skin. Neon lights awaken, the music rises, and every terrace of water turns into a meeting point. 7 pools, 7 excuses to stay a little longer. The ship keeps moving, but time seems to stop. The roar of the water park fades away, and what remains is that aquatic rhythm that slows your pulse without asking permission. Calm achieved. And just as your appetite returns, the journey changes register. Forget everything you thought you knew about dining on a cruise ship. Star of the Seas takes you 90 years back in time and 1,600 kilometers into the heart of Chicago. Dash Lincoln Park Supper Club. 42 seats, $200 per person, 3 hours of total immersion, and a bold promise at sea. This isn't a restaurant, it's a gastronomic time machine. The doors open to 1930, Chicago in its golden age, when jazz wasn't just music, it was religion. The atmosphere hits you before the aroma does. Dim lights like secrets kept, red velvet whispering stories of forbidden nights, and a live jazz quartet making every note float between the plates like cigarette smoke. The menu isn't a list, it's an experience. 8 courses crafted by chefs who studied the lost recipes of the legendary Chez Paris and the Pump Room. Caviar exploding like tiny pearls of the sea on veal tongue. But what truly transports you isn't the flavor, it's the ritual. The waiters don't serve, they perform. Every dish arrives with an anecdote. Every glass is filled with the precision of a watchmaker. And as the double bass vibrates against the ship's hull, as the Caribbean waves rock your dining experience, you realize something impossible. You're dining in Al Capone's Chicago. At 25 knots, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. $200 per person isn't a price. It's the key to a world that went dark a century ago. And that Star of the Seas reignites just for you. But the real time machine isn't in the restaurant. It's about to take you 30 years into the future. You leave behind Chicago of the 1930s and the corridor launches you straight into the Royal Theater. Here, 100 minutes will redefine what you thought was possible at sea. Back to the Future, the musical. It's not just a show, it's a real-time experiment disguised as theater. The curtain rises and you understand why the stage feels like another dimension. They added more than 50 tons of steel to sustain the illusion. Because on this stage, there isn't a set. There's Hill Valley, streets, signs, a clock, life itself. A DeLorean DMC-12 takes the center of the action. Not a nod, but the beating heart of the time machine, with details that would thrill any fan. 29 performers move as if time were their personal toy. A 16-piece orchestra plays live while Marty McFly races against the clock. And the clock? The clock is real. Every second counts. Every note matters. Every flash of the flux capacitor lights up 1,400 attentive faces. Do you know what makes this musical absolutely unique? The production is supervised by the original creators, including Bob Gale, so the humor, the nods, and the pacing feel authentic. The effects are tuned to trigger the same adrenaline you felt in the movie, but with the unrepeatable bonus of being surrounded by open sea. When the DeLorean accelerates to 88 miles per hour, when sparks fly across the theater, when the music explodes and time folds in on itself, you're not watching an adaptation, you're living back to the future. Outside, the Caribbean runs like a side lane. Inside, time is what runs. 100 minutes with no intermission, no pause, no mercy. Because when you travel through time, time waits for no one. You step out of the Royal Theatre with your head still spinning in 1985, and Star of the Seas pulls you back to the present with a culinary strike. AquaDome Market. It's not just a food hall, it's a culinary revolution under the most ambitious glass dome ever built. 5 stalls, 5 gastronomic universes, 1 obsession, redefining how you eat at sea. Pig Out. BBQ greets you with the aroma of slow-smoked pulled pork, ribs that seem to fall apart just by looking at them, secret sauces that turn every bite into a confession of pure southern flavor. Dash Mai Tai explodes on your palate with authentic pad thai, noodles dancing in woks that never stop moving, tamarind sauce that makes every bite a direct trip to Bangkok. La Cochinita embraces you with golden empanadas that crunch like promises and steaming arepas, chimichurri that turns every mouthful into a Latin party. Feta Mediterranean takes you to Santorini with salads that are works of art, olives that burst like tiny bombs of flavor, feta cheese melting on your tongue like Greek snow. Crème de la crêpe closes the circle with French sweetness, batter so thin it feels like solid air, Nutella dripping like promises of Paris. Do you know what makes this AquaDome Market special? Star of the Seas removed 3 icon concepts to create something completely new. Out with GNGR, out with Max, out with Toast and Garden, in with Pig Out, Mai Tai, and La Cochinita. Same dome, same waterfalls tumbling from 25 meters high, but flavors that icon will never know. And as you eat, as the flavors explode in your mouth, as the waterfalls fall like crystal rain, you realize something fundamental. Star of the Seas didn't come to compete with Icon. It came to evolve, one bite at a time. All of this is possible because $2 billion bought more than just a ship. They bought floating architectural fantasies. Star of the Seas hides 179 suites that redefine the idea of a temporary home, from balconies that open to the sea at the push of a button, to 3-level residences that make your house on land look like a closet. Let's start with what appears most often in sea dreams, the balcony. There are 1,815 balcony staterooms in total, some with traditional exterior balconies, and others with infinite ocean view balconies, where the motorized window lowers and your living room becomes a balcony instantly. The Surfside family suites speak the family language, split bathroom, kids' corner, and direct views of the ship's most active neighborhood. Then come the categories that count sunsets. Sunset suites with 180-degree sunlight pouring in, panoramic ocean views that give you sunrises without leaving your bed, and junior suites for those who want one step up without losing simplicity. But nothing, absolutely nothing, competes with the beast at the stern, the ultimate family townhouse. 3 stories, an indoor slide, a wraparound terrace with hot tub, direct access to Surfside, a private cinema with karaoke, a ping-pong table, and a mailbox for daily surprises. The price of this fantasy? Around $75,000 per week in peak season, because for the first time you can have a 3-level home with its own address, in the middle of the Atlantic. And while your kids slide from the bedroom to the living room, while your private hot tub bubbles facing the Caribbean, you understand the impossible. You're not on vacation anymore. You're living in paradise. Every slide that roars, every pool that beats, every show that defies reality. All of it exists thanks to what works 14 meters below. It's not just engineering, it's industrial magic. 6 Wärtsilä engines the size of train cars devour liquefied natural gas at minus 162 degrees Celsius. Every second, they generate enough electricity to power a temporary city of tens of thousands of souls. 7,600 souls breathe, dream, and live atop 248,663 tons of floating steel. 2,350 crew members work like obsessive ants so that your experience remains invisible. And yet, you hardly feel it. You don't feel the engines roaring, or the giant mast cutting through the waves, or the invisible army orchestrating your paradise while the ship sails at 22 knots across an ocean that forgives no mistakes. All you feel is the magic, the slide that steals your breath, the infinity pool that defies gravity, the musical that bends time, because the best numbers in the world are the ones that disappear. You've conquered every world on Star of the Seas, every slide, every pool, every flavor, every show. But one experience still awaits you, one that separates tourists from the brave. Deck 16, 47 meters of air between your feet and the Atlantic. The wind cuts your face at 25 knots. The ship's hull roars beneath you like a hungry beast. Your hands sweat as you grip the railing. Crown's Edge isn't an attraction, it's a test of faith. The outer walkway that extends into nothingness. Every step makes the floor creak beneath your boots. Every meter pulls you farther from safety. You look down. 47 meters of pure air. The Caribbean waves look like toys from up here, and on the lower decks, tiny people turn you into a story. Your heart pounds at 120 beats per minute. A voice in your head screams, "Go back!" But there's something that voice doesn't understand. Something only 7,600 people in the world will experience this week. You take another step. The panel opens. The zip line embraces you. And for 15 seconds of controlled fall, you're no longer a passenger, you're part of the ocean. The horizon curves around you like you're a human satellite. The wind turns you into a living, breathing kite, and the immensity of the Atlantic reminds you how small and how brave you can be. When your feet touch the deck again, when your heart finds its rhythm once more, you realize something fundamental. This moment doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. This feeling, this heartbeat, this personal conquest, only here, only now, only on Star of the Seas. And you understand why $2 billion weren't enough to build just one ship. They were needed to build new worlds. After sailing through Star of the Seas, after every slide, every splash, every show, one question refuses to leave your mind. How do you compete with something that already changed the game? Icon of the Seas had already redefined the impossible. 365 meters of pure brilliance, 248,663 tons of floating ambition, and an ecosystem that seemed unbeatable. The answer? Don't copy. Evolve. Same class DNA, same sea, different personalities. Where Icon takes you to 1920s New York at the Empire Supper Club, Star takes you to 1930s Chicago at Lincoln Park. Where Icon mesmerizes you with The Wizard of Oz, Star hurls you into the future with Back to the Future, the musical. Where Icon perfected the original AquaDome market, Star reinvented it with Pig Out BBQ, Mai Tai, and La Cochinita. Where Icon conquered Miami, Star chose to be Orlando's king, sailing out of Port Canaveral. It's not a duel of clones, it's mirrors facing each other. Same engineering, same magic, twin personalities, two titans floating through the Caribbean, two sister ships that turned the ocean into their personal battlefield. Icon was the pioneer, Star is the perfectionist. The first breaks records, the second rewrites them. Clinging to which one is better is missing the question. The real question is, in which universe do you want to lose yourself? Do you prefer the Art Deco glamour of New York or Chicago's rebellious elegance? Do you want to follow the yellow brick road or travel in a DeLorean? More Miami Beach or the untouched shores of Cape Canaveral? For the first time in history, perfection has competition, and that competition is itself. Now that you've seen both worlds, it's your turn to choose. Leave your choice in the comments. We want to hear your opinion. If this journey pulled you in, give us a like, subscribe to Curiometro, and ring the bell so you won't miss any of our videos. Thank you for traveling with us.